Hey guys, this is Jason. I'm reviewing 28 Years Later The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DeCosta, and it takes place right where 28 years later left off. We continue where Spike left off with his story after getting recruited by Jimmy Crystal, played by Jack O'Connor, and his gang full of Jimmys, who are this evil gang that like to kill other people and other survivors in mainland, where he learns that the infected are not the only bad thing that he has to be afraid of in this world, while Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ralph Fiennes, is studying more the infected and trying to figure out how to control them. When I saw 28 Years Later 7 months ago, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was enjoyable. And when I found out that they were going to make another film 7 months later in January, I was like, oh, this might not be good, because not only you guys already know how I feel about movies in January, but it's also directed by Nia DeCosta, who doesn't have the best filmography. She's known for directing the Candyman remake, which didn't do very well, and also did The Marvels, which I didn't hate. I thought it was okay, but that ended up becoming one of the biggest box office bombs for the MCU. So with her directing it and being released in January, it just gave me a thought that they might have not given this film any hope. And also, it's really soon when they decide to release this 7 months after the last film. I mean, it hasn't even been a year since 28 Years Later came out. And after watching this film, I can now say that that was a false alarm, because I really enjoyed The Bone Temple. I liked it a lot more than the last film. It feels like it has more of a clear tone for the story. It feels cohesive. It doesn't feel like it's all over the place or messy. It feels very natural. And that is very shocking of me to say, because Nia DaCosta, like I've already mentioned, doesn't have the best filmography, but I can now say that this is her best film without a doubt. Her vision in this film is very dark and bleak, just like the last film was, and gives you the feeling that even in the 28 universe, anyone around Spike or any of the other main characters is a terrible person that kills people, whether they have to kill someone to survive or they just do it for fun. And a good example of that is when we focus on the main villain of the film, Jimmy Crystal, played by Jack O'Connell, who leads a gang full of Jimmys that like to kill a lot of survivors just for fun, who is also the same kid from the opening of 28 Years Later, where now as a full-grown adult, he now kills a lot of innocent survivors, and if any of his Jimmys ever mess anything up, he would just kill them and replace them with another one. And he is a very intimidating villain, and every scene he's in, he gives off a very unsettling vibe, where he would just talk down on his victims and slowly torture them and some of his Jimmys if they mess up on what they're supposed to do. And Jack O'Connell gives a great performance as the character, and he's been doing great as villain so far in both this film as well as Sinners, and I thought he was a great villain in Sinners, and this villain in this film is no different compared to him in that film. He is excellent here, and I can't wait to see more of what he's going to do in the future, and he might be playing villain in more stuff, which means it could lead to him being typecast for a while, which part of that I don't mind. I think he's great as a villain, but I feel like that's all he could do if they keep making him villains in other films instead of something different. But I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does, and both this film and Sinners definitely tell me I'm going to be seeing more of him. Another thing that I loved about this film, and is possibly the standout in this film, is Ray Fiennes as Dr. Ian Kelson, who I already liked in last film, but here he does a lot more as the character, where you not only get to see a little bit more of his backstory just from some pictures, but you also get to see him try to treat this infected Alpha named Samson, where he's trying to study him and tries to figure out what's going on with Samson and why he's kind of acting a little differently, where he makes the character feel sympathetic but crazy at the same time, because there'll be moments where you're like, wait, what are you doing? Where he does some moments that are both humorous and ridiculous at the same time, where he would just go up to 11 with his performance, and Ray Fiennes really went for that. This movie at times can also be pretty brutal, just like the last few films were, but this movie also kind of tones down on some of the infected people coming on screen, because they don't really appear a whole lot. Most of the film is just characters talking and and trying to kill other people themselves. In fact, most of the kills in this film aren't even from the infected, where this film feels more character driven and not so much about the infected people coming around. I mean, the other films were character driven as well, but this film decided to tone it down a little bit, where we see the characters trying to register with what they're seeing and showing how characters are trying to learn about what's going on with another character. Now, I do have some issues with the film, and one of them is that the motive for Jimmy Crystal being a bad guy isn't fully explained. Now again, Jack O'Connell is great as a character, and the character overall is very intimidating, but you don't get a clear idea of why he's a bad guy. You kind of get an idea from the opening of the last film, but you don't get the whole thing where you get to see how he became a bad guy and made his whole gang, which is something I assume that they were gonna do after the last film, but they didn't. So there's a lot of unanswered questions and plot holes about his backstory that they for some reason never explain. My other issue is Spike, played by Alfie Williams, who still does a great job, but most of the time he felt like he kind of faded into the background as a side character trying to escape, where he doesn't feel like he's front and center like he was before, where it feels like most of the spotlight was given to Jack O'Connell and Ray Fiennes, which I am good with, but I would have also liked if Alfie Williams shared that spotlight as well, since he was kind of the main character in 28 Years Later, so why are you just kind of making him a side character? If you hated 28 Years Later from last year, then you might enjoy this film, because this is a really good movie. It's a lot better than 28 Years Later, and I'm pretty sure that this film is exactly what people were hoping that that film was gonna be. It's almost like the filmmakers behind this film were like, hey, you didn't like 28 Years Later? That's okay. We're gonna do 28 Years Later The Bone Temple, and we're gonna make that a billion times better. I'm gonna give 28 Years Later The Bone Temple an A-. So guys, if you have seen this movie, what do you think about it? Do you think it's better than 28 Years Later, or do you think that this is worse than that film? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.